Welcome to Part B. Sega were no fools to this, and had started in preparation with a change of CEO of America from Mike Katz to Tom Kalinke, who had previously been CEO of Mattel Toys. Tom started immediately by slashing the price of the Sega console to almost cost price, as he firmly believed in selling the console cheap to make money on the games. The other thing that was done by Sega at this time was set off the AM8 R&D team to design a new game and mascot for Sega. A competition was done within the Sega R&D department, with designs ranging from a bulldog, a wolf, a Bart Simpson lookalike, and a rabbit, before Mr. Needlemouse by designer Naoto Oshima, who had previously done the character designs for Phantasy Star games, was chosen. Now that they had their game character, they needed to think of a game to place him in. Sensibly, they decided not to take Mario head-on with a clone, but instead do an anti-Mario that was everything a Mario game wasn't. They made him big, showing off Sega's hardware. They made him fast and full of attitude. Once they had this concept of a platform all about speed, Mr. Needlemouse's name was replaced by the much cooler sounding name Sonic the Hedgehog. A star was born. So, with programmer Yuji Naka and game designer Hirokazu Yasuhara on board, the game was completed by the 23rd of June 1991. Sega's new CEO Tom Kalinke immediately saw that they had their mascot and quickly replaced the aging US bundle game Altered Beast with the new Sonic game. The game was stunning gamers and gaming press all over the world, with Sonic's speed as he spun, looped and sprung his way around the brightly coloured levels to rescue the cute fluffy animals who'd been turned into evil critters by the dastardly Dr. Robotnik. It would be a year later in 1992, with an almost simultaneous worldwide release in November, the 21st of Japan and 24th for the US and Europe, when gamers would get their sequel to the Sonic game, with a brilliant Sonic 2. This time the game was designed in the US by the R&D department Sega Technical Institute division, which is famous with the programmer Mark Cerny, who shot to gaming legend when creating Marble Madness at Atari when he was only 18. Of course, the original duo, Yuji and Hirokazu, were still on a game at hand as well, so between them all they would create one of Sonic's best games. This time in Sonic 2 the ante was upped even more, with two-player action and even split screen. There was also a new sidekick called Tails, who was a two-tailed fox who could fly. The bonus section was also great, with Sonic and Tails in a 3D tube, which they must race around collecting all the rings. Now, with 2 games under its belt, Sonic was truly the Yan to Mario's Yin, with his own TV show called The Adventures of Sonic and even his own comic book, not to mention the countless merchandise you could buy. In 1993, Sonic took a bit of a break, with only 2 cash-in games released this year. There was Sonic Spinball, which had you playing a pinball-shaped Sonic, and there was Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, which was just really a rebrand of the great puzzler Puyo Puyo. Sonic didn't even make an appearance in this game. No, it wasn't until the 2nd of February 1994 in Japan and the 24th of February in America and Europe that gamers would get their 3rd real Sonic game. This time the Sonic levels were far more involved and the story was much more detailed, with cut scenes moving the story along. It was a great game, but of course by 1994 gamers were already glancing to the future of video games, with the new spangly CD consoles on the horizon. Finally, on the 17th, 18th and 19th of October in Japan and America and Europe, respectively, Sonic and Knuckles was released. They added a new character called Knuckles, who was a red echidna, with kind of a spiky anteater, nature fans. The game was good, but of course by the end of 1994, gamers were already being wowed by the world of 3D in the PlayStation, so Sonic was beginning to feel a little stale. Sonic would have one more game on the Mega Drive with Sonic 3D. This isometric game was the original idea for Sonic 3, before they sensibly realised that it was too much of a departure and started working on Sonic 3 instead. It's a nice game, although not really Sonic, being far too sedated today to not fitting in very well with the Sonic license. Also, when it was released at the end of 1996, only a few gamers still had their Genesis as their main console. But enough about the blue spiky one. Let's rewind back to Mega Drive's heyday again and look at the other great Sega franchises they released on their little black box. To start with, there was Shinobi, which had originally been an arcade smash hit for Sega back in 1987, but it was on the Mega Drive where you had to go to play many of its best sequels. For on the 2nd of December 1989, you had Revenge of Shinobi, a classic ninja brawler set 3 years after the arcade original. The game was great with stunning visuals and locales as you shurikened your way across the levels. Then in July, a third Shinobi game was released called Shinobi 3, Return of the Ninja Master, which improved things even more with bigger sprites and madcap imaginative levels. Another great gaming franchise that is also fondly remembered for the machine was the Streets of Rage trilogy. Released in August 1991, it really was the pinnacle of the Double Dragon mould of scrolling brawlers. In this game you played one of 3 cop heroes who decide to take the law into their own hands after the city becomes corrupted and under the control of the crime syndicate. The series would continue in 1993 with Streets of Rage 2, which took the first game and polished it and refined it to almost perfection. Then in 1994, the third game would be released, improving things even more, rounding off the trilogy nicely. But it wasn't all-out action games on the Sega machine. There was also the more sedate games on the console. There was a futuristic RPG called Phantasy Star 2, released in 1990 in America, which followed on from the Master System classic. Then in 1993 there was a brilliant turn-based strategy RPG called Shining Force. Set in a fantasy steampunk world, it had you follow a compelling story as you played Max, who must defeat the evil Dark Soul. A sequel was also released in 1994, which added even more to this classic story. That's the end of Part B. Please go on to Part C.
Try Swedish bacon. Try Mega Drive. That's the real taste.